Pat Garrett, a cattle baron with a dust-laden suit that bespoke long days on the range, guided his daughter, Daisy, into the bustling Silver Creek provisions. Daisy, a wisp of a girl with twin braids that bobbed as she skipped, pointed a gloved finger at the frosted confections. "Papa, can we have the sugared buns with the pink icing?" Her eyes, wide and hopeful, fixated on the bakery's display. Pat's gaze softened as he looked down at his 4-year-old. Tomorrow marked her 5th year, and the same question had echoed in their ranch house for weeks. Will Mama be there? Clementine, his wife, had vanished 8 months prior, drawn away by the allure of the East and its grand balls, a life far removed from the harsh beauty of the Arizona territory. She hadn't looked back at him or Daisy, leaving a void that even the vastness of the desert couldn't fill. Pat had tried to mend Daisy's broken heart, but a child's intuition was keen. Now, with her birthday looming, Daisy clung to the fragile hope of her mother's return. A young man behind the counter, wiping flour from his apron, offered a polite, "How can I assist you, sir?" But before Pat could answer, a woman emerged from the back, her movements graceful amidst the sacks of grain and barrels of molasses. She possessed eyes the color of the desert sky at dawn, and hair the shade of sun-bleached prairie grass, gathered neatly beneath a simple bonnet. Her calico dress, though plain, exuded an air of quiet competence. "I couldn't help but overhear," she said, her voice a gentle melody as she knelt to Daisy's height. "The pink iced buns are my favorite too, little one." Daisy, usually timid with strangers, offered a shy smile, a rare sight these days. Pat felt a peculiar warmth spread through him. "What's your name, dear?" the woman asked. "Daisy. And tomorrow's my birthday. I'll be 5. Daisy proudly splayed her fingers. "5 is a grand age," the woman replied, her smile radiant. "I'm Clara." Pat cleared his throat, pushing aside a sudden tightness in his chest. "We'll take 2 dozen of those pink iced buns for tomorrow's celebration." As Clara rose to gather their order, Daisy tugged gently at her skirt. "Are you a mama?" A fleeting shadow crossed Clara's face before she answered softly, "No, sweet pea, not yet." Pat's mind reeled. 20 children were expected at the party, along with their parents. They all knew Clementine had abandoned them. Daisy's pain would be laid bare, an unbearable spectacle. A desperate, outlandish idea sparked in his mind. After Clara had carefully packed the buns, Pat asked for a private word. Daisy was captivated by a canary in a cage near the window, giving him a moment. "This will sound wild, ma'am," he began, his voice barely a whisper, laced with urgency. "But my daughter is broken-hearted that her mother won't be at her birthday fete tomorrow. All the other young'uns will have their mothers, and Daisy, she's been asking for weeks." Clara's expression was cautious, yet imbued with a deep understanding. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Garrett. A child needs her mother." "She didn't just leave me," Pat corrected, his voice tight with suppressed grief. "She left Daisy, not a single letter or visit in 8 months. He watched Clara's features soften with empathy. "I know this ain't proper, and we're but strangers, but would you consider pretending to be my wife for a spell, just through Daisy's birthday and a few days after, so she doesn't feel the sting of it so acutely?" Clara's eyes widened. "You're asking me to deceive a child?" "I'm asking you to give her one happy memory," Pat pleaded. "I'll pay whatever you deem fair. I'm a man of means. The coin isn't the issue. I just want my daughter to have one birthday where she doesn't feel cast aside." Clara shook her head slowly. "I don't believe." "Please," Pat interrupted, his voice raw with emotion. "Just look at her for a moment. Truly look." They both turned to Daisy, who was cooing at the canary, her face alight with pure unburdened joy. "She cries herself to sleep some nights calling for her mama," Pat continued, his voice thick. "She's too young to comprehend why her mother went. I've tried everything to heal her, but tomorrow, she'll be surrounded by other children with their mothers, and I don't know how to shield her from that anguish." Clara remained silent for a long moment, her gaze still fixed on Daisy. "1 week," she finally said, her voice barely audible. "Just 1 week. You'd stay in our guest cabin on the ranch. I'd never ask anything untoward. You'd simply grace the party tomorrow. Perhaps share a few suppers with us. Let Daisy feel, for a fleeting time, that she has a whole family." "This is the strangest proposition I've ever heard," Clara admitted. I know," Pat conceded. "If you refuse, I'll understand completely, but I'm desperate. I'm a father who would traverse hell to spare his daughter pain, even if it means something as outlandish as this." Clara studied him for a long moment, searching his eyes. Whatever she found there must have swayed her. I used to teach at the mission school, she finally said. I've seen what absence does to young hearts, and I've witnessed the profound healing that comes from feeling cherished and safe, even for a brief while. Pat held his breath. 1 week, Clara confirmed, but we have terms. No physical contact beyond what's deemed proper. I sleep in the guest cabin, and you must have a clear explanation for her when this charade concludes. I'll devise something, Pat promised. I'll tell her you had to journey for work, something gentle. But for now I just need to see her through this birthday. They exchanged details, agreeing that Clara would arrive at the ranch the following morning, an hour before the festivities. As Pat and Daisy departed the bakery, Daisy waved goodbye to Clara with genuine delight. Pat felt the immense weight of his decision, but within it a fragile spark of hope flickered. The next morning was a beacon of light against the arid Arizona landscape. Pat felt the immense weight of his desperate gamble, but watching Daisy run to the door, a wave of relief mixed with a terrifying hope washed over him. Clara stood on the porch, a picture of quiet elegance in her soft yellow dress, a small wrapped gift held gracefully in her hands. "Happy birthday, Daisy," she greeted the child, her voice as comforting as a summer rain. Daisy, in a sudden, spontaneous burst of uninhibited joy, threw her arms tightly around Clara's legs. Pat watched from the doorway, his chest tightening as he witnessed his daughter's face alight in a way it hadn't in months, a profound sense of peace settling over him. He realized, in that instant, the depth of the void Clara was filling. The subsequent birthday party was a wonder, a joyous commotion that seemed to banish the lingering sadness from the ranch. Clara moved through the gathering with an innate grace, her hands busy and her demeanor gentle. She effortlessly managed the games, distributed the slices of sugared buns, and tended to Daisy with a tenderness that seemed entirely unfeigned. The other parents, observing the easy dynamic, offered knowing smiles to Pat, clearly assuming this kind woman was a new prospect, a gentle hand guiding him and Daisy toward healing. Yet something unexpected blossomed during those following days beyond the performance. Clara wasn't merely playing a role. She was living a genuine connection. She patiently helped Daisy complete a complex jigsaw puzzle one evening, the sound of her laughter mingling with the child's joyful exclamations. At bedtime, she wove intricate frontier tales, her voice shifting into comical accents for the different characters. Pat found himself inexplicably drawn to her unaffected sincerity as she listened with genuine curiosity when Daisy recounted the day's small adventures. Clara was a stark contrast to Clementine, who had forever craved the glittering stage of high society and the distant glamour of eastern cities. Clara found a quiet contentment in the simple moments, in the sight of Daisy's infectious giggles, in the easy companionship she shared with Pat over morning coffee as the Arizona sun rose. On the 5th day of their arrangement, sitting together in the welcome shade of the cottonwood trees, while Daisy played nearby, Clara turned to Pat, her expression serious. "You know this charade must end soon," she said softly, the silence of the prairie amplifying her words. "She's growing fond." "I know," Pat replied, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, a land he knew better than his own heart. "I just haven't figured out how to tell her without causing a fresh wound. The thought of seeing that disappointment return is unbearable." "Tell her the truth," Clara suggested, her voice firm yet gentle. "An honest truth, framed suitably for her age. Explain that I'm a friend who cares for her deeply, that I have my own path to follow for a time. Stress that you wished for nothing more than to make her birthday truly special." "What if I asked you to stay?" The question slipped out before Pat could rein them in, a reckless impulse born of a week of unexpected peace and shared laughter. Clara looked at him, her eyes widening in surprise. He felt the need to clarify, to make his intention undeniably clear. "Clara," he continued, his voice gaining strength and conviction, "not as a fabricated role, not as a hired hand, but as yourself. Daisy adores you, and he paused, seeking the absolute truth of his feelings. "I've been a ghost since Clementine departed, simply going through the motions. But this week, watching you with Daisy, sharing late-night talks after she's asleep, I've remembered what it feels like to breathe again, to hope for a future that's more than just duty." "We barely know each other," Clara repeated, her voice hushed, a hint of vulnerability in her tone. "Then let us know each other," Pat urged, leaning slightly forward. "Truly without pretense. Let us start anew, properly. Would you join me for supper in town, A real courtship, without the need for a script. Clara's lips curved into a genuine smile, a brightness that finally reached and lit up her eyes. I would like that very much, Pat Garrett. It seems like the truest path forward. That evening, armed with shared conviction, they gently explained the truth to Daisy. That Clara had been a special friend who helped make her 5th birthday wonderfully memorable. And now they wanted to spend more time together to see if they might build a real family. Daisy, with the profound understanding of a child who had quickly learned to read the nuances of emotional truth, looked intently between the two adults. "So Clara might become my real mama?" she asked, the question carrying the weight of all her unvoiced wishes. "Perhaps someday, sweet pea," Clara responded with heartfelt honesty, choosing her words carefully. "But only if it's what all of us truly desire, and only after we've had the chance to truly know each other. For now, I am your friend who cares for you immensely, and wants to be close." "All right," Daisy affirmed, and with the trust only a child can muster, she enveloped them both in a warm, comforting hug. 6 months later, Clara and Pat were married in a humble ceremony, held right on the ranch, the vast, silent Arizona sky serving as their cathedral. Daisy, radiant in her best lace dress, scattered handfuls of wild prairie flowers as their flower girl. Their union was not one built on a convenient deception, but a genuine love cultivated through honesty, patient understanding, and a deep, abiding connection. Daisy, now 5.5, finally had the complete family she had yearned for, a home built not on a fragile illusion, but on two people who actively chose each other with open hearts and a shared commitment to her well-being. Sometimes, the most precious gifts emerge from unexpected acts of courage, when one is willing to reach out to a stranger and ask for help against despair. And sometimes, what begins as a desperate plea in the face of insurmountable pain becomes the genesis of something truly, beautifully real.